All right, everyone. I am Faith Collins. I'm the Community Capacity Coordinator at the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission. Thank you for joining us for session 3 for Catalyst Connections, Department of Labor, Workforce Opportunities in Rural Communities. This is an overview of why apprenticeships. This is going to be a panel discussion. We are lucky to have Marshall Palmer from Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industries Apprenticeship Training Office. He's our Western representative. And we have John Teakatch, the Executive Director of the Keystone Development Partnerships. So as you're working with your small business partners, this is a great way to learn about apprenticeship opportunities so that they can really leverage the resources available in Southwestern Pennsylvania for workforce development opportunities. So here's an overview of today's presentation. Brief welcome by me, and then a review of the mission statement that we've put together for this initiative, followed by a panel discussion that Scott from Catalyst Connection will overview. I don't believe we have an employer partner. Unfortunately, our employer partner was not able to attend today. We have some really excellent resources available as well. An apprenticeship readiness assessment. Following that will be a review of apprenticeship.hq.org, which is a new initiative with Catalyst, and then a call to action from Catalyst Connection. Finally, a reminder of our next session, session 4, which will be December 4th, 2025, also virtual, and we have a post-session survey. If at any point you start seeing my slides, feel free to let me know. I'm going to hand it over to Jen of Catalyst Connection to review our mission statement. Jen, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. The reason we're meeting today is to look to raise awareness on available apprenticeships throughout our region, and also to make sure you're understanding the initiatives behind the Department of Labor Workforce Opportunity in Rural Communities grant that we currently have. We are looking to engage partners, including those in small business and our entire workforce ecosystem, and advance apprenticeship in effort to advance apprenticeship opportunities. So in whichever way that we can help advance this mission, we just want to make sure that is discussed during these meetings, and we have opportunity to talk more about how we can raise apprenticeship awareness.
Oh, so here's our panel discussion. Unfortunately, JV Manufacturing was not able to join us. Without any further ado, Scott's actually going to be the one that is moderating this panel. And for that, I'm actually going to stop sharing here. So I'm going to hand it over to Scott.
Let me just first do a mic check, make sure everybody can hear me.
Yes, sounds good.
If not, we were going to have to do a switcheroo, so thank you. My name is Scott Dietz, and I am the Director of Workforce Development at Catalyst Connection, and oversee our team that works on our K-12 programming, which includes a pre-apprenticeship program, which we're not going to be talking about today. We're going to be focused mostly on apprenticeship, but maybe if we have time, I'll throw at least one pre-apprenticeship question into the mix. And that includes our apprenticeship program we've been doing for close to 6 years now, and want to just continue to build off of that momentum. And also very excited about sharing, as Jen and Faith alluded to in the agenda, sharing about how we're trying to collaborate more with our partners across the region. But very excited about having John and Marshall join us today. I'm going to ask that each of them just, John, maybe we'll start with you. Just introduce yourself and who you're with, and just the 30-second elevator pitch, if you will, of what your organization does.
You know what? I only got it down to like 35 seconds, but I'll give it my best shot. I'll give it my best shot. I'm John Teakatch. I'm the Executive Director with Keystone Development Partnership. We're a nonprofit organization. We're a workforce intermediary. We have contracts through the U.S. Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Defense, the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Office, and local workforce development boards. We help with a lot of workforce development projects, and especially we're very involved in registered apprenticeship program development.
John,
was that 30 seconds?
That was 20. Good job, man.
Oh, awesome. Broke my record.
Marshall, please do the same.
Thank you. My name is Marshall Palmer. I'm the apprenticeship training representative for the Western region for the Department of Labor and Industry Apprenticeship and Training Office. It's appreciative to be here. My focus is on building apprenticeships through providing guidance on developing and registering the apprenticeship program, following and assisting those entities who wish to build one through the process, advocating during council for those that I've built the programs with, providing technical assistance, providing trainings, educational opportunities for our PA Career Links workforce boards, and anyone else who would be interested in apprenticeships are just a very small portion of what I do. Thank you.
Marshall, we're going to stick with you for just a minute. From your vantage point, it seems like the apprenticeship office in the state of Pennsylvania has grown as far as staff and support. I'm sure that from what I've seen, programs have been growing across the industry sectors. Of course, we're focused on manufacturing today, but just maybe give us a little bit of a snapshot of what's happening across the state and kind of the trend you're seeing as far as the growth of apprenticeships across the nation, across the state and maybe the nation.
So looking at the growth, of course, President Trump said he wants, I believe he said 1 million apprentices over the next, I can't remember, a year, over through the next year. And in Pennsylvania, we've been assisting that growth through, we have grown we've grown a lot to now we have a data team, we have a compliance team, we have your field division team, we have our sector strategy teams. We had a job seeker liaison that is on hold right now, but through these growth, we're able to expand out farther with a bigger team. We have more than 20 staff now. It used to be 1 to 2 staff. Now we have more than 20 staff to play and have in these individual roles. With that growth, of course, we focus on our traditional occupations, but now with our sector strategies, we have 3 individuals right now who are working on sector strategies that's focusing on IT, healthcare, and that's their specific job through the whole state. I am a regional representative to where I cover everybody in my region. But when we talk about building out these new sector occupations, when we talk about building out growth of those, being the convener and assisting, bringing together meetings, we have health, arts, which I'm involved in the arts sector, IT, transportation, agriculture, and we're really trying to grow the apprenticeship realm in those spaces as well. And along with the manufacturing, as you can see through, if you're not receiving any of the Maestro emails that come from the apprenticeship training office, you can see the um, reach out to me, but you'll be able to see like the new occupations that were approved. You can go on the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Council's website and see what occupations were approved each month. And there's still a lot of manufacturing that's coming up with machinists, tool and die makers. We have one that's going to be coming up that's going to go into like an EMT. So again, the apprenticeship growth is still growing in Pennsylvania and hasn't slowed down. I can say it's expanding and growing even more.
Marshall, it's great to
And
hear that about that growth, but it's also great to hear that there's new manufacturing programs coming on board because I traditionally think about manufacturing, the skilled trades, as kind of where apprenticeships maybe has its strongest or biggest footprint. So can you just maybe address that? Is that assumption correct? Is manufacturing the skilled trades still the largest portion of apprenticeships in the state? And
manufacturing trades is still the largest portion, and the continued growth. As you can see, there's a new, and it ends tomorrow. There's a um, advanced manufacturing grant, funding grant that's out there to continue to expand that, and that's for advanced manufacturing because there's still people that still uses milling and still developing that. In our group programs, what a lot of people don't see is that with our small businesses, we are through our group programs, those are really expanding, like really growing through NTMA, Catalyst, and many other partners that we work with, New Century Careers in the Western region, that those programs are really expanding out, adding more and more members who are potentially unable to manage their own program, but have the opportunity to go into these group programs. And that's something that you may not see with these group programs is how many people actually come underneath of them. And that's really expanding the growth of apprenticeships and allowing them to have that apprenticeship opportunity. And there's a lot of manufacturers that's doing that, and we're working this Southern Alleghenies region to help grow that as well.
Yeah, I was saying that I think it's important for all the partners on the call that know what's happening from the bigger picture landscape, because there's a lot of excitement about the growth of manufacturing apprenticeships, but apprenticeships in general. I think it's that excitement. If it builds amongst us, then it builds amongst the constituents we're engaged with and the people we're trying to share that information with. And so I think it's important to just spend a couple minutes here on this high level conversation. John, is there anything else you would add to that as far as from what you're seeing? An uptick in activity, an uptick in number of programs wanting to get registered, inquiries, anything like that you want to kind of tag team on?
Yes, actually, I just had a meeting with the U.S. Department of Labor. We had a monitoring session for one of the federal grants that I'm working on, and I was telling them exactly that. A lot of our grants are coming to an end right now, and I said, look, I really hope that this does not end, because I have never seen more interest in registered apprenticeship programs than I have right now. And really what I think is driving that is, well, there's a lot of things driving. We'll talk about that later, but really manufacturers talking to other manufacturers about the success that they're having with their involvement in registered apprenticeship programs. And now it's a competitive thing. It's almost like a sales pitch to people looking for a job. Do I want to join a manufacturer who has an apprenticeship program where I can learn, grow, or do I just want to go with another manufacturer who isn't offering those types of opportunities? But it's huge. The interest is unbelievable.
John, are you seeing any change in, like, traditionally a lot of companies would register their own apprenticeship program? Are you seeing that still pretty active, or are you seeing this cohort based, partner based, leveraging partners like ourselves, the German Chamber and others being more of a trend?
No, it's the group sponsorship. What we call the group sponsorship is more of a trend. And just for the folks who aren't, I'll try to keep it really brief, but there's a couple different ways to register apprenticeship program. Individual employers registering their own program. I've been working with the Apprenticeship and Training Office in Pennsylvania since it relaunched in 2015. We were responsible for helping the state expand apprenticeship programs. We would go out and meet with employers, small, medium, and large, talk about apprenticeship programs. They would say, hey, look, we think apprenticeship programs is for us, but we really don't have the capacity to manage these on our own. So even Catalyst Connection, we worked with groups like Catalyst Connection, and we encouraged them to go out and talk to their employer partners, identify occupations of interest, register apprenticeship program in their name, and invite multiple employers to join in. And that really achieved a few things. One, it just took the burden off the employers for the whole process of registration and managing the program. The other thing was that it was an economy of scale. For instance, multiple employers were only paying the portion of the cost of the training rather than paying all the training costs themselves, but only filling the seats with the number of employees that they wanted to start in the apprenticeship program. But yeah, the group sponsorship, I see more activity with group sponsorship than individual employers registering their own program. And I will tell you, you can join a registered apprenticeship program group sponsorship by simply signing a 4-page employer acceptance agreement rather than going through the whole registration process.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm going out of order on my list of questions because I think, John, you just skipped the number 5, which is good because I kind of prompted you to do so. So we're all good. And that question was really around what are the benefits for small businesses working in a group sponsorship versus going it alone. And I think, John, you touched on a lot of really important points there as far as the burden of entry, but also the funding opportunities and again, just that expertise that they're able to tap into, augmenting their staff, even with the organization that's got the program sponsored that they get to augment with, et cetera. So.
Yeah, just like a concise answer to that would be the group sponsors handle much of the heavy lifting and, things like the registration paperwork, compliance tracking, coordination of related instruction, or that's the classroom training. And for small businesses without a dedicated HR training department, that's really huge. The sponsors can also help with recruiting, onboarding, connecting with training providers. So it really lowers the barrier to entry for businesses to get involved in apprenticeship programs.
Marshall, is there any additional benefits that you see for small businesses, especially in the manufacturing sector,
For
for a
the
group
small business,
sponsorship?
for some of the group sponsors that I deal with, they're able to connect job seekers to those companies as well. So it's just another resource to be able to create that pathway into the program. I do have some group sponsors that do train individuals that pay for themselves, but they're able to connect to those employers and then become employed as they go through the program. So I do have that, and that also creates a stream because a lot of these group programs are connected to different pre-apprenticeship programs that, again, that's another pathway to obtain those job seekers. And
So I'm just gonna,
the logistics, like John, I do apologize. The logistics, like John said, you don't have to deal with rapids. You will never deal with me. You can still obtain funding, and it's
but we
just
do.
you can do work. Yeah, you can actually just do the work and make sure that the apprentices are trained without that a little bit of oversight. You'll still have oversight from the group employer, but it's not from us at the state level.
I'm going to just put a quick plug in here to all of the folks on the call. Feel free to jump into the chat and throw any questions that you have. So if you have questions as we're going through specific content here that you want clarification on, or you want John or Marshall to dig deeper into, feel free to throw those into the chat. But also, if you have just questions on, anything we're not touching on, throw that in the chat too, and we'll make sure to get that in there, because we really want you walking away from the conversation today to, after the series of conversations we've already had, to really have a strong understanding of all aspects of the apprenticeship program. You don't have to be experts, obviously, but know enough to go out and inform and educate and identify potential companies that might want to participate in the program going forward, whether ours or any of the partners that we're going to talk more about here later too. So again, I encourage you to jump into the chat and throw some questions out. But I do see Kelly raised her hand right away, so go ahead, Kelly.
It was easier to do it that way. Hey, I'm from the Small Business Administration, in case there's anyone on the call who I don't know. And we have the Made in America initiative, and we're really doing a lot of outreach to manufacturing firms. Not only are we going out and visiting them, but we have a series of training here in Southwestern Pennsylvania that we're currently doing. Our first one was on just generally the Made in America program and the things that that come along with that. We have another training coming up. If anyone wants information on it, I can drop it in the chat, on cybersecurity and counterintelligence threats with CISA and NCIS, two other federal agencies that we're partnering with. And this is training for manufacturers. The third training that we wanted to offer in this series is on workforce development. And we wanted to invite all of the manufacturers that we're working with that are also working with our exporting folks and things like that, international trade, so that we can talk to them and provide them with information. Do you guys have in Southwestern Pennsylvania, is there like a flyer, or is there some type of a database, just, it could even be a Word document of the resources that are available? Because some of the manufacturers that we're visiting are fairly small, and they don't know about all the resources that are out there, but yet their number one concern when I talk to them is that they do not have the ability to hire a skilled workforce, and they're unable to keep employees because other manufacturers are poaching them very quickly. And we'd like to be able to really work with you guys to help provide that information.
Well, let me start off by saying, Kelly, that there's probably a bigger conversation around where does all that information live across all things careers and manufacturing and awareness and resources. When it comes to apprenticeship specifically, that's actually one of our next agenda items. We're going to talk a little bit about one resource that's coming on board here in the next month that's going to help with that. But John and Marshall, any other things that you would point to as far as resources to make this the information gathering and information awareness, frequently asked questions, et cetera, from an employer more accessible, easier to find, aggregated in one place versus having to do a Google search and find it all over the world?
I'll take a quick crack at it. I would say if you're a partner with Catalyst Connection, that would be a great place to reach out because they're aware of all the resources that are available. I believe the Support Registered Apprenticeship Program. Number two would be, and not in priority order, but your local workforce development or board or Pennsylvania Career Link office. the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Office has done a lot to educate local workforce boards and career link offices about resources that are available for to learn about registered apprenticeship programs and really this state apprenticeship and training office themselves. There's a lot of resources online on their own webpage to understand how to connect with registered apprenticeship programs too. In southwestern Pennsylvania, if you reached out to me, you get Marshall. If you reach out to Marshall, most of the times you get me. So, we work closely together. So you have a lot of good resources. Recap, Catalyst Connection, Local Workforce Development Boards, Pennsylvania Career Link offices, the State Apprenticeship and Training Office are all great resources to connect.
So I want to go to our next question. Again, keep thinking of questions. And again, we want to make sure you're walking on these conversations with clarity and with your questions answered and a strong understanding. So feel free to throw those into the chat. Let's start with Marshall. Marshall, what do you think are some of the common misconceptions about apprenticeships?
I believe some of the common misconceptions about apprenticeships are it takes forever to build an apprenticeship program. That's probably one of the misconceptions when we talk about apprenticeships, that if you're an employer, you're interested in apprenticeships, that there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of things that you have to overcome. And just to eliminate that is that we work at the speed of business here at the Apprenticeship Training Office. We're one of those entities that as we will move as fast as you want to or as slow as you want to, but we do have a lot of resources to assist in building an apprenticeship program. To debunk that myth and misconception is that I had a program get built and approved within 2 months. Again, they had that dedicated person. I've also had programs who come in and we ensure that we give them the full-fledged information of everything that we have to help them make that decision of which way they want to go. I've had one conversation, then they went to a group program. So again, that misconception of it takes 6 to 12 months about apprenticeships or long or that takes for too long. Also, one last thing about misconception of apprenticeships is that another misconception is that if I train this individual, they leave after I train them. And that our retention rate's more than 90%, 92% of retention. So looking at businesses trying to debunk that, we have data. Currently, we have over 15,000 apprentices. So there's companies out there that has apprentices in there, over 840 program sponsors, which that's actually a lot more because when we talk about those group programs, we're not accounting for those individuals that's underneath those group programs. So there's over 15,000 apprentices and many, many, many completes. Again, it's just a little bit of work on the side of the business and that there is more than a 90% retention rate. So those are two misconceptions I normally get about apprenticeships is that, hey, and counsel is not as hard. We guide you. As long as you just listen to the ATR as you're building your packet, we will try to get you past the first time, which there has been a lot of programs lately that has been passed the first time, which is unprecedented, especially when I first started.
John, what would you add to that as far as misconceptions about apprenticeships?
Well, Marshall covered a few of them, but I would say the biggest misconception is that apprenticeship programs are only for the trades or the construction fields. And we talked about this a little bit, but while they're certainly strong, the building trades and apprenticeships now exist in like healthcare, IT, education. We did advanced manufacturing and even finance. So there's like 1,500 occupations that are registered as apprenticeship programs. Another common myth is it's only for young people or students, but really like many apprentices are career changers or adults looking to upskill. And then probably the last thing, just to stay on time is I think small businesses often believe that apprenticeship programs are too complex or perhaps expensive, but that's really not the case, especially, with support from like group sponsors like Catalyst Connection and your workforce partners like your workforce boards and your career links. There is a lot of support and resources available to help with expenses.
Great. John, I'm going to stick with you for this next question, but what have you seen as motivators for a small business to start an apprenticeship program? What's kind of their mindset and their rationale for not only what gets them knocking on the door, but also what gets them walking through the door and actually putting a program into place?
I'd probably say by far crisis is the motivator. And what I mean by that, I've talked to some employers for 5 years about apprenticeship programs. And they're like, nope, nope, nope. And they're like, please help me, 5 years down the road. And what I mean by that is like, when I talk about crisis is like probably the most common motivator is we see like talent shortages, high turnovers, the need for customized training. And I think small businesses are realizing that it's often more effective to train someone from the ground up, especially when they can, tailor the training for their company's specific needs. So they're also growing awareness of the available support like the group sponsorship and funding, which makes the process like so much more manageable. But I do believe it's because of recruitment, retention, and the need to upskill their current workforce.
John, how do we change that mindset so that it's not just when you're in crisis, but that you think more proactively and longer term about the value of apprenticeship programs?
It's kind of funny too, because the only thing I can fall back on that is experience of working with employers. And a lot of times in workforce development, we come up with a lot of different strategic plans to help workforce development, but a lot of times employers will go with the Band-Aid, just fix it now. And it just keeps coming back to I need another Band-Aid, another Band-Aid. So the idea has to be, let's be strategic about this. Let's get you out of trouble right now, but let's build a plan, a multi-year plan to meet your workforce needs.
Marshall, would you add anything to that as far as motivators for small businesses to start apprenticeship programs?
I think some of those motivators, as I sat here and talked to Johnny, talked about a lot of great motivators, is that just education. If we're going to motivate someone, we need to educate them, doing what's happening now is just bringing community people together, having these conversations, sharing those success stories, um, and showing how this apprenticeship model really benefits them through maintaining those when we lose the older aging workforce. People are going to be losing those individuals. I've heard it a couple of times through programs I work for, and those young individuals coming up are able to retain that information, able to continue that information moving forward. And again, another motivator again is that cost effective. We're keeping this talent. We have that retention rate, and we know how much a program's going to cost. And that last motivator um, in my realm is that skills gap. Like we're taking that skills gap that they may have, and we're just customizing that training for them and bringing that training of what they're already doing, not modifying it, but just putting it into the apprenticeship realm, that they have a training that everybody individual will go through the same exact training, so they know that the person that they get at the end will still all be trained the same and have the same skills, the same mindset, and they've also gained um, that education, that experience from those older aging workforce that we're soon to be losing in the next 5 to 10 years.
Marshall, I was just talking to a company the other day and I said to them, I said, I'm not trying to force you into anything. I'm not trying to oversell you on anything, but if you've ever considered doing apprenticeship before, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to finally take action on it, because the national attention, as we've talked about on it, the amount of funding that's available, as we've talked about. So I think you can really, even say to employers and small manufacturers, that if you're on the fence, now's the time to jump off the fence, because there's not going to be a better time than now. At least that, these things kind of ebb and flow, and we might be back into an ebb, sometime down the line. And now's a great time to jump on these opportunities. And John, it looked like you were nodding your head on when I was saying that, so I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, I think you said it really well. The resources that are available right now to support employers who have these workforce needs, it's unbelievable, the amount of resources that are available. So, and not only like resources with funding, but the technical assistance, groups like the Apprenticeship and Training Office, intermediaries like my organization, and what Catalyst Connection can do. Yeah,
John, I'm
now
gonna
is the
stick with you.
time.
I'm going to stick with you here for a minute. Can you think of an example of a company, especially a smaller manufacturer, who's had great success with an apprenticeship program? Maybe it's helping them retain employees or attract new talent, or any example you want to give of a success story?
I always think of one, and it wasn't too long ago, but we recently worked with a small manufacturer who is struggling to find qualified production workers. They got involved in a group-sponsored registered apprenticeship program, and they began training individuals directly while on the job, while they completed their classroom training, which is we call related technical instruction. And within a few months, they had a pipeline of loyal, skilled employees. Retention rates went through the roof. So they dramatically improved. Plus, they were eligible for state and federal funding to offset the training costs. And and I'll add, this is a company that typically would have 107 employees. They were down to 77, and they were training adverse. They're like, no, we just want to find qualified people to come in and do it. We really don't want to do training. And what we did find out was I think they added about 30,000 square feet, bought millions of dollars worth of equipment, and had nobody to run it. And they were turning away work because they didn't have people to run their equipment. And when we had that conversation, I'm like, what is the cost of lost opportunity worth to you? You're turning away millions of dollars because you don't want to do, you can't build, you can't find skilled workers, but yet you're still not willing just yet to build your own workforce. And once they kind of grasped that concept, it really took off. And I will tell you, the person who runs this company is my best registered apprenticeship advocate. I can put him up in front of any group, and it's like five manufacturers want to get involved in apprenticeship programs right at that point when he tells his story.
So we know who we're having on the next call in December.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever that is that John's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Marshall, do you have a success story you want to share?
I don't have one for small businesses, as most of the time I'm building it and just providing technical assistance and supporting. I do have one though, to where even though it's a little bit larger of a manufacturer, that working with them currently, the workforce board works with them, and they're getting ready to go up in front of council soon, but they took a step back and looked at their program and seeing why that they weren't able to get this specific type of individual in there. And they took a chance, and they're taking a chance on they to revamp their entrance test. And John, we just got off the call with them, but they they took a chance of looking at this program, coming into the apprenticeship model of saying, hey, this can make it a lot better, but they kind of not they've lowered the not the expectation, but they looked at bringing individuals in a whole different way of knowledge and of the person they are. And so they developed a test with they developed this test, spent a lot of money, developed this test and look at different ways and apprenticeship in a different way of normally how they would hire somebody. And I think that's a very good success, because apprenticeships is looking at, hey, can I take somebody that has zero experience, maybe a little bit of knowledge, and put them in this high knowledgeable field? So they worked on developing that test. So they looked at apprenticeships and looking at their employment just a little bit differently.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to add to that real quick. So the idea was their first assessment was to find somebody who could do the job. Now with the apprenticeship program, their assessment is to find somebody with the aptitude to learn how to do the job. And it opens the door for a lot of their incumbent workforce and people off the street looking to get into that field. And they can demonstrate that they have the ability to learn how to do that job. So it's a big win for everybody, the employer, the employees, and the community.
I think we have a question maybe from Ed.
Yes, Ed, I saw that you had a question that popped up in the chat, but it's not showing in the chat. Would you like to ask your question now?
So I don't know if you heard Jen or not, Ed, but if you want to come off mute and ask your question because it didn't show up in the chat.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I was just asking about some of the, John had mentioned that Jen had some resources that she could share as far as the sponsorship or the group sponsors and who might be available, and how some of my small manufacturers could find out more about that potential.
And honestly, I don't want to put words in your mouth, John, so feel free to answer this further, but I think the best thing that we have found is we just put somebody in touch with John directly and let them ask those, because it usually, even a website, if it's got information, it's maybe not the exact information they're looking for, or they still don't know enough of the lingo in order to translate it or get their questions answered. So a lot of times those one-on-one conversations with someone like John is, I think, more valuable and can save a lot more time even than trying to develop more resources out into the world. But John, I don't know if you want to talk more about Ed's question.
Okay, I actually thought the question was for Jen, but
Oh, sorry.
I think you said Jen mentioned resources, or did I mention Jen had resources? I'm delirious right now, but actually, like I said, the state Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Office has a great resource page. There's a lot of information about apprenticeship programs. You can really dig deep in, what is an apprenticeship program? What are the components of an apprenticeship program? What are the different ways to register it? But, like a workforce intermediary, like myself or like Catalyst Connection, or again, your workforce boards, if you just want to have a conversation, that's who I would reach out to. And we all know each other. We all work with each other. We're going to refer each other to who we need to refer them to. We're not, believe me, we're not competition. We're partners.
And we'll make sure to send those links out to everybody. We'll probably ask Faith, we'll make sure you get the links that everybody's been talking about in these conversations, and we can send it out to the group that's here, but also the bigger group as well. And then that way you guys don't have to go and search and say, I think this is the site they were talking about, but I'm not sure. So we'll make sure to get you directly to the spots.
And I would say SPC too is a great resource, because I think Faith introduces me to one group every week. I get one introduction a week. To talk to somebody.
Keep John busy.
Yeah.
I see another question from, is it Alana? See a hand up anyway.
Yes. I'm working through, I had to accept a couple things. Sorry.
No problem.
So I do have a question. I had thrown in the chat recommending PennTap as a resource. It's an acronym, Pennsylvania's Technical Assistance Program. I'm the associate director of that program. But related to you guys, have you guys been talking about RISE PA, or been hearing about that program that the state and other programs have been supporting? Curious. Or John or Marshall.
I saw Marshall nod. I'm not familiar.
Okay. So I'm signing on today.
John raised his hand though. I don't know if he had a comment or if he was just acknowledging he was familiar with it.
I raised my hand. I'm sorry, Elena. I do have your email. It's just been I do have the email that was attached on to connect with you. I was actually going to email you after this call because I had some time. So I looked at your email that you had sent to me, and I was going to be responding to you and Olivia and Tana to facilitate a conversation upon that. But I would definitely like to hear more if you'd like to.
Yes, I would love, if you don't mind, I'd love to share it. I think this is a very awesome message to share in this tight group. But RISE PA, also an acronym, Reducing Industrial Sector Emissions in Pennsylvania. It's a giant grant program. So when you guys were talking about motivation, money helps. So that particular program, the state was running a very large grant. It's going to close tomorrow. PennTap is running the small to mid-sized businesses grant. What we're looking for is to decarb with a project, whether that be something you're adding into the system or something that's energy efficient, not trees for decarbonization, more like equipment, et cetera. And we have a required apprenticeship program component. It's part of applying for the program and part of what we expect to see as you do the construction portion. And I know that in this first round, we closed our first round. We're going to open up a new round in September. We have a lot of questions on what that looks like. The small businesses are finding this to be a barrier. They're going cozy with a contractor they know, instead of like seeking out what the potential possibilities are. And my projects that I'm going to be assessing for a grant, they're going to vary in size. Some of them are going to take a day or two to install, like say one single piece of HVAC, some lighting, and some projects are going to be much, much larger. Up to $1 million in total project cost is my limitation. So with that really widespread, I need some help in coaching up and assisting and having resources ready for the experts in the room to talk to these small guys so that they don't accidentally try to apply for a grant, can't actually meet the means when the project is really strong, and support that workforce component. So that's why I'm on the call today, looking for resources and helping that conversation out.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think we can circle back, either Faith or even us. We could certainly go into a more in-depth conversation about that too.
Lovely.
So we only have a few minutes left on this portion of our agenda. But I just wanted to skip down to a couple of questions here and kind of hit on a few more topic areas. John, when you see a company that's looking to stand up an apprenticeship program, what do you see as some of the shortfalls that they might have in getting it across the finish line or not getting it approved?
I think Marshall talked about that a little bit earlier, but one is like one challenge would be the confusion around the registration process. It can be overwhelming at first. We come in and we talk to you and we say, here's 5 components of an apprenticeship program. Here's the 50,000 different ways to register. That's what it sounds like, a lot of alphabet soup and things like that. But, with acronyms and initials, but it can be overwhelming at first. So I would not be, it is a lot to take in. You have to have the conversation, digest all the information on the registration process, and then get right back to it. And you'll find out that it's not that bad. Another one is identifying related instruction providers. There's a lot of times that you're interested in a registered apprenticeship program, but you just can't find that right training partner or partners. I see aligning schedules with on-the-job training. Every once in a while I heard that productivity, there's concern that there's productivity loss while folks attend training or, or they're not as productive when they first start their apprenticeship program. And sometimes businesses hesitate due to lack of time or resources. And so that's why having trusted partners like workforce boards, like Catalyst Connection, like the Apprenticeship and Training Office and group sponsors is so important.
John, I think it's an important point, especially, with the current workforce shortage that we're currently in, as well as, some sectors of manufacturing are a little bit tighter right now than they were a year or so ago. And the workforce is running pretty lean, and that it goes back to what you were talking about before, as far as strategically thinking about the big picture and the long term, not just the immediate. And yeah, you might lose a little bit of productivity gains, but you're also going to save yourself time and not having to recruit a new employee because you're going to retain the one you got. And how much more productive are they going to be once they have more skills and they're trained up more? And again, thinking about that, 5-year window versus thinking about the immediacy of, I can't take that person off the line and have them go train for a day a week or something like that.
I like to add, it's a little bit on topic and a little bit off topic too, but when you talked about the productivity, we just talked to, Marshall and I just spoke to a company. It's a small company. They mostly do machining, but they're a manufacturer, like a job shop. Their 2 most productive machinists are leaving. They're leaving the country. And they're like, what are we going to do? These are the people we go to all the time. So I mention this a lot. There's an old saying, when a person dies, the library burns to the ground. All that knowledge goes with them. It's the same thing when your most skilled workers leave, whether they retire or they go somewhere else. If you don't have the opportunity to transfer that knowledge, the more skilled worker to the less skilled worker, you missed a huge opportunity. So yeah, while there is a little bit of loss of productivity for an apprenticeship program, it pays off in the end. The return on the investment is huge.
Marshall, this is a kind of a setup question to my next question, but from your vantage point, do a lot of manufacturing apprenticeship programs, do they hire folks directly off the street from a school or directly off the street into a manufacturing apprenticeship program? Or do you find that, that manufacturers tend to wait a few years until someone's been with them for a little while before they make that investment into moving them into an apprenticeship? I don't know if you have any perspective on that.
Normally, the manufacturing, again, apprenticeships is built based upon taking someone from zero experience and building them up to the way that you want them built, creating that with mentorship, creating that individual who's going to be able to mentor and create that positive experience. Lately, I've seen some manufacturers say, hey, we want you with us for 30 days before we put you into the apprenticeship program, because depending on how your apprenticeship program is built or your RTIs, there could be a cost to all of that. I do see a mix of both of, hey, you need to spend 60 days with us, 30 days with us, and then we want to evaluate you again through the evaluation process in apprenticeship programs. We do ensure that each person, if they do that, each person is going to be evaluated the same. Like if they're going to do discipline, hey, 0, 1, 2, they're going to have a point rubric scale to ensure that everybody's getting the fair shake to get into the apprenticeship program. So I do see a multitude of, we're just going to do it from the employment, we're going to do it from you need to spend 30 or 60 days with us. And then we do have some employers that where they have a couple individuals that they want to put through the program and upskill their current individuals. Maybe you're a machine operator, but we want to put you as a machinist. So we do see a lot of that upskilling starting to happen as well, giving their current employees those opportunities.
So that was the setup, Marshall, to me, talking very briefly about pre-apprenticeship. And again, for those that are on the call that maybe aren't as familiar with all of this, pre-apprenticeship can be adult job seekers that before they're employed and before they officially into an apprenticeship program working at a manufacturer. But in a lot of cases, and Marshall, maybe you know this as far as like statewide, at least our program is very much high school focused and really aimed at that audience for pre-apprenticeship. What do you see as the kind of the mix between like adults and pre-apprenticeships versus students? And then if you could just kind of dovetail into how does pre-apprenticeship fit into this conversation and how important is it for companies to support and be involved with the pre-apprenticeship programs?
So I don't have the data without looking at it of how many is like high school, how many is above 18 or 20, but I would say that there's 132 current registered pre-apprenticeship programs, and you can find this on the PA CareerLink website under apprenticeships. And there are 12,379 active pre-apprentices at this time. I've never seen that number so high, and we currently have 15,595 active apprentices. So there's a demand for those pre-apprenticeship programs because that's the pathway into apprenticeships. And I do talk to a lot of companies. It's like, hey, we need to create career pipelines. I've talked to workforce boards. We need to create career pipelines. I've talked to many manufacturers, many sectors of creating pipelines. But there are pre-registered apprenticeship programs out there that are not registered with the state, so they're still creating pipelines. But what we want to see is that they're registered pre-apprenticeship programs to create those matriculations into our apprenticeship programs, because there has to be a matriculation, there has to be a pathway from pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeships. And that's very, very important to continue these jobs, to continue to fill those voids, those needs. And some of the things that John brought up earlier, talking to individuals that, hey, we need people, we can't keep people. But if you start building that relationship with individuals at the pre-apprenticeship, you're sponsoring these pre-apprenticeships, there's a loyalty that comes with that as well.
And I can speak from our experience, there's this little bit of a chicken and egg thing of which comes first, the pre-apprenticeship or the apprenticeship. Well, the pre-apprenticeship has to leverage the curriculum of an apprenticeship. But at the same time, if you don't have companies in the geographic footprint of a school that are doing your apprenticeship or doing an apprenticeship program for manufacturing, it's hard to get the school enticed to want to be a part of the program and to feed into it. So, the more we can grow companies offering apprenticeship programs, the more that opens the opportunity for more schools to pre-apprenticeship. And again, a little bit of a chicken and egg thing there. But John, I'm going to give you the last word on this as we kind of wrap it up. Anything you want to add around pre-apprenticeships and the importance of that in this puzzle of apprenticeships?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I'll probably forget to say this too, but well-aligned pre-apprenticeship program to an apprenticeship program does shorten the length of the apprenticeship program by the pre-apprentice receiving advanced placement because they went through a training program. So it does shorten the length of it, and that does lower the cost of an apprenticeship program too.
Yeah.
But this isn't scientific, but I do have a lot of experience with pre-apprenticeship programs, and I will tell you this: not all pre-apprentices go into manufacturing or go into an apprenticeship program. And that's probably a good thing too, because they become aware of the career and the occupation. I know onboarding is very expensive, for an employer to bring somebody on and not work out. So a lot of the pre-apprentices learn, hey, this is for me or this is not for me. Some of the apprentices like it so much they may say, hey, I want to go to college, become an engineer. But I will tell you that I believe in my experience, the pre-apprentices who matriculate into a registered apprenticeship program by going to work with a manufacturer, the retention rate is almost 100%. It's like, I went through this training program. I've done an internship to externship co-op or whatever with a manufacturer. I know what I'm getting into. I know what my opportunity is, and this is where I want to be and stay. So I think pre-apprenticeship programs are very successful.
So again, with that kind of retention rate, if that's not only a selling point to the employers, but also that's why we need them involved in helping to go into classrooms and do presentations and offer part-time work experiences while the students are still in high school to make that, create that bridge, to those employment opportunities. And again, that requires a little bit more investment of time and a little more investment of effort, but usually the money factor is not there because, you know, these partners have grants covering the cost of you know, any costs incurred there. So, I'm just going to leave it as with any last words, anything burning in your mind, Marshall, that you didn't get a chance to share today. You're like, man, I really wanted to make sure I got this out to the group. I'll give you one last word to share anything. And John, be thinking of your last, if there's anything else you want to share too.
I do want to let everybody know that there's so many great resources, and John said it earlier. We connect. Jen, I talk to Jen every 2 weeks. Faith, I talk to Faith once a quarter. I talk to so many individuals that apprenticeships growth is through these partnerships. Through every partnership we have, it just continues to grow and grow and grow. And I know from my perspective that that growth is due to these partnerships that we have with John, with Jen, with Faith, with our workforce boards, our PA career links. And that's the most important aspect of apprenticeships because that's how education gets out. That's how those success stories gets out. That's how these funding opportunities get out is through education. So that's the only thing I want to add is that while I'm here and would love to work with anybody to build an apprenticeship program, I think the most important core component is the partnerships that we all developed and create to help educate and promote.
That was a great segue to our next slide, but I still have to give John a last word if there's anything burning that you didn't get to touch on today.
I always wanted the last word. Thank you for the opportunity. This is the first time in my life, so I don't want to blow it. But I would just say if you're considering registered apprenticeship programs, start small. Consider starting with like 1 or 2 apprentices. I would partner with a group sponsor or workforce organization like an intermediary like our group that understands the process. That'll give you a quick pathway to apprenticeship programs. Just be clear about the skills you want to develop and communicate regularly with your training provider. Feedback loop is really important for both everybody. Like with your apprentice, feedback loop is probably one of the most important part of an apprenticeship program. How's it going? Do you understand everything? Do you need help? You know, that'll help your apprenticeship program. Consider offering mentorship training. I told you my favorite component of a registered apprenticeship program is the mentorship. You know, you're a very skilled employee doing that knowledge transfer. So maybe think about a mentor training or a trainer program so you get the most out of your mentors. So, you know, training within your company, it helps the mentors and the apprentices feel supported. And I would just say most importantly, just stay open to learning and adjusting your program as you grow.
That's probably another added benefit to apprenticeship that doesn't get talked about as much. You talked about retention by showing that a company's willing to invest in your future. By being selected as a mentor, you're also kind of getting that pat on the back and that opportunity to share all that wisdom that you have with the next generation of talent coming in the organization. And that's got to be a part of retention too. I would think that's helping that mentor even decide to stick around with the company too because of that new responsibility.
I just want to say it's also a very positive culture change too, having that mentor apprenticeship relationship. It's huge. I'm sorry.
Well, John,
hey, I wanted the last word, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's always gonna be a last until I cut him off and we end the chat. But don't go away. We're not done yet. Okay. Thank you so much, Marshall. Thank you so much, John. We appreciate it. Definitely stick around for the rest of this call, please, because the next slide has got some information you maybe both of you aren't aware of yet. So with that, I'm going to ask Faith to screen share again and pull up our slide deck. And I'm going to share something that touched on what we chatted a little bit about earlier. But first, so just note, we're just going to touch on this because we're a little over on the last segment, which is fine because I think it was great information. But there is a PA apprenticeship readiness assessment tool that, again, many of you might not be aware of, or that those companies you're engaged with might not be aware of exists. And we can throw a direct link to this in the email out to everyone as well. But it's a great kind of starting point to make sure an employer has a sense of what all is it going to take to get an apprenticeship program going, but also make sure they're ready for it, make sure they have the infrastructure and that they have some of the building blocks and foundations in place before they move forward. So I think it's a great tool and a great resource. A lot of times this is something that somebody like John or Jen is going to walk somebody through and talk through or use as a kind of a conversation guide. But I just want to point out this resource and that it's available. And again, we'll send a direct link to that. So Faith, if you want to go to the next slide. So this group may be one of the first to know about this, other than the immediate folks involved, but there is a new website launching. It's going to be live by Manufacturing Day. And if you don't know, National Manufacturing Day is October the 3rd. So this site will be up and running and ready to go by then, probably sooner because we're getting pretty close. But it's going to be apprenticeshiphq.org. I was absolutely shocked that that domain name was still available. So we stole it, we grabbed it, we snagged it up and locked it down for 5 years. So, but what this really is this comes out of a grant from the R.K. Mellon Foundation that Catalyst Connection received to support what we call our Manufacturing Apprenticeship Collaborative. And what we basically have done is we have convened all of the other partnerships around manufacturing that we're aware of anyway. So if there's ones that aren't in this list that you're aware of, please let us know so we can incorporate them in. But these are the organizations that run group sponsored pre-apprenticeships or apprenticeship programs in the region for manufacturing. And so these are friends that we've had for a long time in some cases, in most cases, but we all run programs. We're all communicating with companies. We're all communicating with schools. We're all communicating with community partners. And we wanted to streamline that process and make it much easier as opposed to having to find all of our individual organizations and try to figure out which organization is the best one to start with or that's the best fit for your needs. We wanted to bring that all together into one spot. So that's the primary driver of this Apprenticeship HQ website, is to streamline that communication, to show that we're in solidarity with each other and that we're working in partnership and collaboratively. I think, John, you said it before, as far as, partnership, and this is a partnership effort. This isn't a competitive thing. And sometimes that maybe is how somebody perceives it, maybe as at a company or a school, of like, I've actually heard this from schools, like, oh, we're doing the German chamber program, so we can't do your program. Well, why? We can coexist in your school. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of students, and our credentials could stack to each other as well. So first phase of this website is really about that awareness about apprenticeships, awareness about pre-apprenticeships. What are they? How can someone tap into whichever program makes the most sense for them and is best aligned, and have that streamlined communication. After that, the next wave of this website, we hope to have things like, what does my career journey look like? So if I start off in the IMT Pre-Apprenticeship program at Catalyst, what doors does that unlock? What can I stack on top of that? If I'm a sophomore doing the IMT program and I've gotten some certifications, can I now jump into the German Chambers program or the Bots IQ Robotics Technician Pre-Apprenticeship and have advanced standing and advanced credits so I can do my pre-apprenticeship faster, which then lets me get to an employer with even more certifications, or go to a college and get even more articulated credits because I have multiple things that I'm able to stack. So that's the next wave of this grant, but also we hope to showcase in some way on the website. There's also a lot of brand new video content. So every one of the organizations you see listed here, because of the funding from R.K. Mellon, we've all created brand new videos to showcase, really trying to showcase success stories of our apprenticeships and our pre-apprenticeship programs. So again, this is going to be a great resource for all of you to show those employers that you're working with, or to put up on your social media. Hey, here's a video about a young lady that started off in a NTMA, New Century Careers apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program, got a job at Aerotech Industries, and now she's a supervisor and she's mentoring other apprentices. It's an incredible success story, told very well by a multi award-winning videographer that we hired to do it. I think he's won 28 Emmys or something like that for his work. So really good videos. All the organizations have new ones. Those will all be on the website as well as link outs to all of the organizations where you can then do a deep dive into their specific program if that's of interest to you. So that's just a quick sneak peek. Next time we meet in December, that'll obviously be live. And we'll make sure to send an email out to everybody to let you know when the site is officially live and that you can share it out with folks. So any questions about the Apprenticeship HQ or about the bigger kind of R.K. Mellon initiative to try to synergize some of these efforts? I saw a couple comments, so thank you. Glad we're on the right track, and that some of you are excited about this source becoming available to the community. So All right, so Faith, you want to talk about the survey?
Yeah, sure. So we want to hear from you guys what kind of sessions you'd like to hear next. It sounds to me like we're going to be reaching out to John's, I believe the wording was best apprenticeship advocate for the December 4th session, but I'm also hearing maybe some interest around career links and workforce investment boards. I'm going to put this link in the chat. If you could please complete this, this will be included in follow-up information as well, along with apprenticeship links and the link to the readiness assessment. I'm going to stop sharing here so I can put that information in the chat. Any questions for us for right now or for our presenters? Going once, going twice. This recording will be sent out along with the slides. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please let us know. Looks like there's some good resources in the chat. I'm just checking to make sure that there is, well, let's make sure. I don't know how many more IT issues I could encounter today. Almost doesn't seem possible. Anyways, this post-session survey will be included in follow-up, and I am, I'm going to include it in the chat. I'm going to hand it over to Scott and Jen while I'm fighting with Teams.
Yep, no problem. Well, I was just going to say thank you again for everybody for attending today. Thanks for your questions and your attentiveness. Again, we're all in this together. There's benefit for our entire region by keeping our workforce strong, by increasing retention, by building these pipelines of talent through pre-apprenticeships. But we can't do it by ourselves. You know, most of us are very small organizations that are represented here, but collectively we're very strong. So we're really big on partnerships, and appreciate the partnership with SPC via this work grant to help us get the word out and to connect with new folks and educate additional champions out into the community. So thanks again, John. Thanks again, Marshall. And we'll talk to you guys again soon.